Hey everybody, before starting this week's episode, we wanted to stop and talk a little bit about the sponsor of our episodes, and that is Expedition Roasters, the artisanal roasters of pop culture inspired coffees.
You know, in these stressful times where we can't go to the parks and experience all of our favorite things and get those wonderful smells, it's nice to have a bit of that with us here at home, and you can definitely have that with Expedition Roasters.
Yeah, and there's a myriad of flavors that you could choose from depending on kind of what you want to reminisce about in a certain way. I mean, you could easily choose Route 66 Tire Fix, which is their morning blend coffee, which, you know, obviously is reminiscent of Cars.
Yes.
So imagine walking into Cars Land, the asphalt fresh with the water that is evaporating after they cleaned off the entire area, fresh in the morning. You just walked in the gates, something like that. Or you could do Fortune and Glory, which is our Indiana Jones inspired coffee, which is bourbon streusel.
That's so good.
So,
but my favorite is Happily Never After.
Yes, your favorite is Happily Never After, and I have to say that one of my favorites is the Wonderland Coffee Crumb Cake.
That's
so
good.
and for all you coffee drinkers out there, it is such a well-balanced mix of flavor and the actual coffee flavor.
And the bags are super pretty.
Yeah, the artwork on the bags are pretty incredible, and you could actually buy the art on the website itself too.
Yeah.
From the actual bags.
Which you should, because it's so cool.
Yes. So if you find yourself needing a little bit of a pick-me-up, but you want to reminisce a little bit about the parks, I would highly suggest checking out Expedition Roasters, heading over to expeditionroasters.com and purchasing some coffee from them. You could definitely use our coupon code for your first time purchasing coffee, which is a Duo15 at checkout. And remember, brew your happy place. Expedition Roasters, an adventure in every bag.
Hi, and welcome to the Theme Park Duo podcast. Grab your park map, churro, and hop in line with us as we take you on a coast-to-coast adventure through the world of theme parks, haunts, conventions, and more. Now, here's your hosts, Nikki and Gabriel.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Theme Park Duo podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Gabe.
And I'm Nikki.
And we are
the Theme Park Duo.
We have a fun episode for you guys today. We have Jeremy Stein on the show from Diz Dudes and Main Street Magic to talk about his experiences at the Universal Orlando Resort when they just reopened after the whole COVID-19 closure happened.
I guess when you have two Disney podcasts and the only park open is Universal, you might as well get passes.
Pretty much. That's exactly what ended up happening. So he went and visited. Actually, when we recorded, he was in his room at Cabana Bay. So on location recording, if you want to say it that way, with Jeremy Stein. So we were going to get a firsthand experience explanation of kind of what it's like to be at the parks with all the new rules and regulations put into place. But before jumping into the interview with Jeremy, we do want to shout out somebody for leaving us a 5-star written review on iTunes.
Yay, finally!
Yeah, I know, right? So, as we always say, if you leave us a 5-star written review on iTunes, we will shout you out here on the show and also read the review on the show. So, the last one that we got says, Theme Park Duo are the best. And this is from AJ Kenobi. Love these two so much. Always informative and just two genuinely warm-hearted people. I especially enjoy listening to their thoughts on haunts once October starts coming around. Awesome podcast. Thank you very much, AJ Kenobi. That is always appreciated.
Thank you.
We're warm-hearted.
I am.
Yeah, I'm definitely cold-hearted. I'm a cold-hearted bitch.
Well, it's like you're like a lizard.
Cold-blooded?
Well, no, it's like you're cold-hearted, but then you need warmth from outside to penetrate and make you warm.
That's why I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
Everyone, just hug me next time I see you. I need your warmth.
No, COVID.
Oh, whoops. 6 feet away warmth. I don't know how that works.
It's the energy.
Oh.
You thrive off the energy.
The energy of people?
Yeah.
Or the energy of warmth? Like
the
sun energy?
No, the energy of
solar.
people.
I am solar energy
No,
powered.
Human energy.
Solar
like me,
human energy powered.
Me, social interaction drains me. It takes my energy.
Yes, it does.
You get energy in from it. And energy.
This is a very confusing conversation to be having.
It makes sense.
To you.
It does.
To literally no one else, probably.
Twitter poll. Does Nikki make sense right now?
No Twitter polls, Nikki.
Stop.
No
I will never
Twitter
stop
polls
fighting
allowed.
for Twitter polls.
Twitter polls.
I had a White Claw.
That is the reason why Nikki can't say Twitter poll.
Yes.
Say Twitter poll.
Twitter poll.
You said it fine. There you go. You're fine.
And Twitter pated.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very nice. Nice tie-in. Anyway, thank you again, AJ Kenobi, for leaving that 5-star written review. And without any further ado, let's jump into our interview with Jeremy Stein at Universal Orlando Resort. Hello, everybody. And as we said in the intro, we have a wonderful friend of the show on with us today. He is one of the co-hosts of the Main Street Magic podcast, as well as the Diz Dudes podcast, our good friend Jeremy Stein. How are you, dude?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, man?
Doing well. Staying safe, staying healthy as much as humanly possible in this crazy world of ours.
For sure.
As we said in the intro, you are at Universal right now.
Yeah.
You are actually talking to me from your hotel room.
I am. I'm here at Cabana Bay Resort, the beautiful kind of 1950s themed beach resort. And I thought I was going to be recording with you from my house, and we were having too much fun. So this morning, went down to the front lobby and inquired and said, hey, can we stay one more night? And capacity is very, very low. So they had a lot of availability. So we easily added tonight. Yeah. So she kind of laughed when I was like, do you have a room available? Can it be the same room? She's like, yeah, I think we got you covered.
Actually, Cabana Bay is where Nikki and I stayed when we went out to Universal Orlando Resort for the first time.
Okay.
And we completely fell in love with that little resort because it fell right in between what we wanted. And tell me if this is kind of the correct way that you guys were thinking about it. It felt not like a value a value resort like a Walt Disney World, not like an all-star resort, but it almost felt like the next step up to something a little bit higher quality, because they even have like the lazy river and the pool and the bar at the pool and everything there. It felt a little bit like a midway between those two.
Yeah, I agree completely. And, we're really getting very new into Universal Studios. This was only the second time we stayed on property. Last time we stayed at a Universal hotel was just back in September for my 40th birthday. We stayed at Portofino, and we were literally in the room maybe from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And we had to get home. So this is really our first experience, and I've been blown away. I mean, I had heard how good the value resorts were here, and I agree with you 100%. I kind of feel, look, I love Disney very, very much. I'm going to continue to love Disney.
You have 2 podcasts on it, so I would say that, you definitely love Disney. Yeah,
and I will say, though, like, I look at this resort, and it makes me kind of wish a little bit what Pop Century would be. I mean, it's, we're in a family suite, so it's got 2 full beds, but it's got, like, a living room area with a fold-out couch. It's got a kitchenette. It's got 2 sinks, separate room for a toilet, and it's got the shower and all, and just, it's perfect. We got a family of 4, but my girls now are almost age 10 and 12. And so having extra space at those ages is very important. Like, they don't always want to share a bed. And, you're looking at a value resort at Disney. We'd have to go to either All-Star Music and do a family suite, and those aren't too horribly priced, or we'd have to go over to Art of Animation into a family suite, and that room's going to be twice what we're paying for this place. So I've been blown away I've been blown away. Yeah. I mean, we became, I'm sure we'll get into some of this, but we became pass holders here at Universal just Friday when we came down, and we got a really great pass holder rate. And it's pretty impressive. It's got the amenities of a Disney moderate easily, except there's not like a true sit down restaurant. That's about the only difference, I think.
But it's not a deal breaker. It's not like you have to have a sit-down restaurant in order to feel like the resort or that hotel is something of value. I mean, I honestly, from having the experience of having gone to that hotel, so I know exactly what you're talking about, the amenities that Universal has brought to that allow you to feel like you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck, and a lot more than that, actually. So
yeah, no, agree completely. I mean, this place has a lazy river and a bowling alley. Like, I mean, that's pretty insane. And I think, I think a big difference is that, all these resorts are run by third party and by like the Lowe's Corporation. And I think that was probably a really smart move on Universal's part. But there doesn't feel to be any disconnect. Like it still feels like one, unit, like one cohesive unit. So I really am impressed by value to value. And I've always said, like I've said on our show a lot of times, people will try and complain about the Disney values and say, well, $190 for All-Star isn't a value when I can go down the street and stay at a Holiday Inn for half the price. But Disney's not saying value based on surrounding hotels. They're saying value based on their moderates and deluxes. And $190 a night for All-Star is a value compared to their moderate and deluxes. So I think people try and twist the words of value and compare Disney's values to Universal. And I don't think it's a direct comparison, in my own personal opinion.
No, it definitely isn't a direct comparison, but it also comes down to what is perceived as value by the customer themselves too.
Totally. Yep.
Because a lot of people could be perceiving, at least in my perspective, if I'm coming from all the way from California and I don't want to spend a bunch of money, $200 a night, that's a value to me.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
But if somebody who, who's local, who doesn't want to pay that much, it doesn't look like value. So it really all depends on the lens that you're viewing it through as well. So I'm glad that you're having a great time out there. I know that, I don't know if I've actually ever said this on the show before, but Nikki and I were drinking our very, very strong margaritas in that lazy river out there in inner tubes. This is before Erin was around, our daughter. And we were like, this is our last trip without a kid, isn't it? And we were both like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And then Erin was born not too long after that. So, that was our last hurrah trip as adults, was to Cabana Bay. And I definitely think that it was well worth the trip and the money. So I know the kind of experience you're having. So.
Yeah, no, but that's a good last hurrah.
Yeah, it definitely was. But moving on from that, so, you guys went out there to see Universal Orlando Resort for, almost, for all intents and purposes, like your first time as a family.
Yeah.
And this is when they're reopening after COVID-19. So there are a lot of new rules and regulations and standards that have to be kept now then versus the first time you've gone. You said for your 40th birthday.
Yeah.
Now, how has the experience been for you with all those new regulations? Because I know that they have, temperature checks, they have, social distancing, you have to wear your mask at all times, and it's just a very different experience. So than what you're used to. So how's that been going for you guys personally?
Honestly, it's gone incredibly well. I was shocked. So I'll just be completely transparent and say that during all of this, while, here in Florida has certainly dealt a little bit different. We're 2 hours from Orlando. We're not far. And Florida's been very different as far as they've handled, I feel like, the situation as far as reopening. We shut down a lot later, after spring break than most other, states did. And I kind of went into a mode of safety where I thought, what, we're going to take this very, very seriously, and we are going to do everything that we're supposed to do. My wife is a hairdresser. She was shut down from work for 10 weeks pretty much. I work from home, but I certainly had a lot of clients that wanted to put things on pause, and I dove like head first into being kind of almost a nut job about it. Like, and we laugh about it. Like my wife will look at me as I'm like getting a shift order and wiping down individual groceries. She's like, you're crazy, right? And I'm like, I know, but what is it hurting?
Safe than sorry.
And that was my thought. And so as things kind of slowly started to reopen here in Florida, and, she went back to work with a ton of precautions, and it made me feel pretty comfortable. And, I started to continue to look at the research and look at things. And, I can say, I don't think we would be here this weekend. And like, we went to the opening of Disney Springs on May 20th, the reopening of that. I don't know personally.
Did you wait in the 6-hour line for the store?
No, because that was the week after. We went to opening when they hadn't opened any Disney properties. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, man, if we did not have like these podcasts about Disney, there's no chance I would be here right now. And
Uh-huh.
that's probably the same thing for this weekend. But it started to get to a point where I was like, we would travel to Disney every 2 to 3 weeks, and we would stay on property for at least a night or two, sometimes 3. And, we hadn't traveled in 10 weeks, and the kids had to finish out school at home. And we were starting to get pent up. We were like, you know what, we just need a break. Universal's reopening. Why don't we just go stay at their resort for the weekend? And to be honest, if we weren't comfortable with the way things were going, I'll sit in a room for a weekend just for a change of scenery. We can just get away. And so about a week ago, as Disney started to give a little bit more information on how things were going to reopen, and I still think we have a lot to hear about how Disney's going to reopen. We as podcasters and as people, that have a podcasting network and we put out all this content, we started to think, man, are we going to have enough content to finish out this year, depending on how Disney reopens? And we're like, it may be time to start thinking about Universal and making a change or an addition so we can add some Universal content, because I think people are going to make a jump. They're going to look at saying, if I'm going to spend all this money at Disney and it can't be the way I want it to be, maybe I'll check out Universal or I'll just stay home. And so we thought, let's do it. Let's go down. Let's start to figure it out. And from the mind of a guy who has been a nut job for 10 weeks, there hasn't really been a moment over these past 3 days that I have felt unsafe, uncomfortable, that I thought from team members to guests were not doing what they're supposed to. Like we said that we did an episode on the reopening of Disney Springs, and we were talking about how over the 10-week period, and that we were locked down, I saw a lot of things out there that were starting to make me lose a little bit of faith in humanity. Because we have
dude, I feel like a lot
sides
of us were like that.
Yeah, and it's so 50-50 and it's so split. And I can say that opening of Disney Springs in these past 3 days has restored so much faith in humanity for me. And we have been the type for the past couple of weeks where they said, if you would like to go to the parks, you're required to wear a mask. And we had one simple decision. We go to the parks and we wear a mask, or we don't go to the parks because we don't want to wear a mask. And at no point did we ever think we were going to go in and fight the system or just take them off or whatever. Because at that point, it doesn't matter. It's no shoes, no shirt, no service at that point. It doesn't matter if you agree with it. What matters is that it's required. And therefore, if it's required, you need to adhere to that requirement.
Exactly.
And that's what we thought.
And Nikki and I have talked about that pretty much a lot. It's either you do or you don't.
Yeah.
There's no in between. It is either a yes or a no. If it's a no, you'll come back when you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been wonderful. And I can tell you from the moment we checked in, first of all, it has definitely been limited capacity. I mean, if you feel comfortable coming to Universal Studios, and I don't know what it'll look like a week from now or 2 weeks from now, and we'll actually be back in 2 weeks and I can compare, but this is the time to actually come if you feel comfortable with the guidelines that are in place. And from the moment we walked in, you walk into the resort, we checked in, we pulled up front, and of course there's a team member, which I'm getting very used to saying team member and not cast member
instead of cast member.
Yeah, took me a day or two.
It's a small difference.
It is, but it makes a huge difference though too. So
it's like you call them a cast member, they give you a dirty look. They're like,
exactly.
What did you say?
Like,
that's a 4-letter word over here, sir.
Seriously. So, but no. So we pulled up, and and there was a team member in a mask, and he, we rolled the window down, and he said, if you're checking in, there's some parking right up here. We parked. As you walk through the front entrance, which are limited, at Cabana Bay, there's probably 4 or 5 different places you can enter, and most of them are shut down. There's 2 major entry points. And when we walk in, there's 2 great team members sitting there, and they're going to do the temperature check, which is a non-contact temperature check. And it's basically, it's a little weird because they're technically like pointing a gun at your forehead.
Yeah.
But they go ahead and do that. And what they've implemented here is a wristband every day. So they will check your temperature upon entry, and they'll give you a color-coded wristband for that day. And that means that you don't have to have it checked at any other locations on property for the rest of the day. which is nice. And I know, you could have some people that could easily say, well, who's to say you won't come down with the temperature in the afternoon? But they're doing what they can, and they're very gracious. They're very nice. We went and checked in, and they've got the plastic dividers that are all set up, the acrylic dividers, so you can go ahead and check in. And everything from there, honestly, has gone so well and perfect. I mean, we've had to wear the mask throughout. I mean, today was probably the longest I've worn a mask for any given time, like over the course of the day. And you do get a couple breaks here and there, but it's just, I've been so pleasantly surprised at not only obviously how well Universal's done, and they don't have a choice. I mean, they've got to knock this out of the park.
Yeah.
But how amazing the guests have been. Like, we haven't really seen a situation. I mean, you're certainly going to see some people that maybe just have their mask off, but they're still pretty social distant, or they're drinking or eating while they walk. And of course, you can pull your mask down. The queues are spread out very, very well, and people are adhering to the lines on the floor. The virtual queues have gone, I think, about as good as they could here. I mean, there's certainly been some hiccups, but what do you expect, when they didn't have that much time to implement it? So I've been so
brand new
impressed.
systems during a new time. There's definitely going to be hiccups involved in that process.
For sure.
Now, I know that you did talk about, kind of getting temperature screenings, and you had mentioned, what if your temperature goes up a little bit later? I mean, like, ultimately, I feel like those temperature checks, and this is just a personal opinion, I feel like those are a little bit of COVID theater, because there are people who have no symptoms, including a temperature. So even if somebody's temperature goes up later, you potentially could have people who don't have a temperature walking around with it.
Totally.
So it's kind of a null point at that.
It is.
But
it's definitely a little theater. You're right about that. And I do think it helped. I mean, think about how many times, you've probably gone to a theme park, though, and there have been people, and this may change the standard for the future. Who knows? And think about people that have gone, man, I feel like junk today, but I spent a bunch of money, so I'm going into the park. And while while it won't stop the asymptomatic people, it potentially will stop the others. And you're right, it is certainly a theater aspect to it. I mean, same way, like we walk around, coming into City Walk, there's all this walkways, like conveyor belt walkways that you can go down, and there's somebody wiping them nonstop, and they're literally wiping parts of it that nobody's probably ever going to touch. And part of that is some theater, but I do think there needs to be something that they can make sure that people see that, hey, we're taking this seriously. Look, we're going to wipe down this bench that we're not even sure somebody has sat on twice an hour because we know that it will make you feel a little more secure. And for somebody like me, I'm okay with that. I mean, and I'm going to take things into my own account. I mean, every time you go to get on a ride, there is a team member that has sanitizer that they will squirt in your hand right before you get on the ride. Now, when I get off the ride, I'm going to go ahead and just sanitize again as well, because why not? And then every single place you walk into that is food or beverage, there's a team member there, and there's a Purell, automatic sanitizer set up that they require you to sanitize before you walk into that food and beverage location.
See, that's great. That's something that I believe that is a must. And like you said, I do think that although it is COVID theater, there does need to be some type. It is necessary because there needs to be some type of connection in people's heads that allow them to see, like you said, that they are caring about those specific details.
Yeah.
Because if there wasn't, I don't feel like people would be as giving when it comes to going to the resort itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing with security going into City Walk or Disney Springs or Downtown Disney. It's security theater, because I have so many cast member friends say, I don't know how people get into the parks with these things in their pockets. Mm-hmm. It's the same situation. But I personally like it as well, even though I know that it's, just for the looks of things, it does make me feel like they care. And I do genuinely believe that Universal cares about its guests and its cast members.
Of course.
Team members. I did it.
You can edit that out later.
Yeah, I'll just cut that. Nobody will know. No, but kind of taking a step back really quickly. I know that you said you went to the opening of Disney Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could we compare a little bit about your experience at Disney Springs versus your experience of going to Universal and being at City Walk? You know, from my perspective, and this is the reason why I want to get your answer here, I'm only viewing this through the lens of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, and I know, social media could be viewed as a million different things depending on who's sharing it and what context, and it could be different, you know. And from my perspective, it really feels like Disney isn't doing as good as a job as Universal when it comes to the mandate of wearing a mask, social distancing, and things like that. And it could be very different when you're actually there. So as somebody who's experienced both locations, how would you compare them, and how is Universal doing something different that Disney isn't?
So when we went to the opening of Disney Springs, we were there from opening at about 10 a.m. and we ended up leaving about 4 p.m.
Damn, you were there a long time.
Yeah, and I'll say during those 6 hours, I thought everything went incredibly well. From what we saw, from everyone that we saw, we maybe saw one or two people that were kind of just walking around without a mask at all. If there were anybody else that had a mask pulled down, it was because they were eating or drinking, you know, which of course, that's how you got to do it. What I will say on the opening of Disney Springs, and then I'll compare it to Universal, is that there were not a lot of cast members or security that seemed to be just randomly roaming to potentially enforce people without face masks, but I didn't see people without face masks, so I can't be completely sure if that was the difference. Now, we went there Friday, just when we drove down just 2 days ago, we drove straight to Disney Springs. And again, I thought I personally saw people adhering to the guidelines. Now, you know, we haven't been there in the evening. We haven't been there when it's maybe a little more crowded, but I thought I noticed things going very well. I just didn't notice a lot of security or cast members who potentially could enforce. But I've noticed something a little bit similar here at City Walk and all throughout Universal. Like me coming up the elevator, you know, I just went down because we have to leave really early in the morning because Rhonda's got to work at like 10 a.m. So we got to get up at like 7, drive 2 hours home. I went down to take some luggage and put it in the trunk of the car, and there are people walking on and off the elevator with not a mask in sight. There isn't a situation here where there's somebody to enforce that at that point. You know, that's got to be a staffing issue. I don't know what you could do to potentially do that. You'd have to set up, you know, so many different team members in certain points. But I can say, like, we went, our daughter Lacey, who is 9, she's gonna be 10 here in about a month. She has some bad social anxieties, and so it's been a rough go for a while here, especially during all of this. And before we came, this is one thing I will say: anybody who's thinking of going to Disney Springs, Universal, when Disney reopens, any of these parks, especially with children, but honestly with adults too, you need to practice wearing a mask. Like, we tell people, practice like your footwear and your shoes for a park. Don't buy, and I'm sure you think the same thing, don't buy a brand new pair of shoes that you've never laced up and think that you're going to walk all of Disney day one.
Yeah, 20 plus miles.
Yeah, your feet are going to hate you. So make sure that you break those shoes in. You know, if you're not somebody who walks, 10 to 20 miles a day, and you're just going to mosey into a theme park and think you are, you're wrong. Like, I would start, like, you need to actually prepare and train. And it's the same thing with a mask. And so we started last week knowing that our daughter Lacey was going to have to come here and wear a mask. We started testing ones out. And I can tell you, we tried the full gator, like sleeve looking thing. We tried the disposables. We tried a cloth that some friends had made us, and she freaked out on all of them. It was not, you know, for her.
Felt like she was suffocating, or she felt like it was like what's it called? Like people who don't like tight spaces.
I think she felt like she was suffocating.
Claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic, yes. And so, like, I mean, honestly, we kind of have an issue with her in crowds in general. So I think it was kind of like that, you know, claustrophobic thing where she felt like just her face was crowded. And so I thought, well, if we can't keep a mask on her, because I'm in the mind that if we can't keep a mask on our child, then we should not take her into the park. I'm not going to walk in and say, my kid doesn't want to wear a mask. Now, if there was a medical condition, and I still don't know how they're going to handle some of those things, and there's certainly some medical conditions where people cannot wear a mask, and I don't want to sound like a jerk, but unfortunately, I feel that those people may need to wait to go into the park. And so I finally was able to get her into tie a bandana, which is allowed. And so she's been doing a bandana that's been tied around her face, and it's gone well. But like, we were in the Simpsons area for lunch, and I went up to the little Bumblebee taco truck, and I didn't realize she had slipped it down under her chin. And she came right up next to me as I was ordering, and my mask was fully on. And the team member, as politely as could be, looked at me and said, excuse me, sir, your daughter will need to either pull her mask up or she will need to step 6 feet away, basically. And I'm like, oh, gosh, yes. I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know she had pulled it down. And so I've seen several times, getting on Hogwarts Express, they come in, and as you get into the train, and it's really one group per car, or I guess cabin in the Hogwarts Express, they come in and say, you need to keep your face mask on for the entire ride to help protect those that may come after you, and sit here. And they look in and say, will you please pull your face mask up? Like, I've been really, really impressed with Universal's, I guess, policy on having their team members say something, because you got to think, and here's the biggest issue. You could have a 19, 20-year-old, I call them kids because I'm 40 now, but you could have a 19 to 20-year-old kid. I mean, I don't think I look intimidating, but I'm 6'3". Like, I'm a big dude. Like, I could see a 19 to 20-year-old kid being a little concerned to have to go up to someone and say, will you please pull your face mask up? And that person not adhering to it. And I've seen nothing like that. I mean, I've really, dude, I'm telling you, I've been so impressed with the way that everybody's acted through this. It's been awesome. It really has.
That's really good. And honestly, on that point, it's really difficult because there are a lot of younger people who work at theme parks, either, for a summer job or whatever it may be. And it's really difficult to put a job into their hands that is actually a very serious task, and especially given the circumstances of today's kind of environment and people's unwillingness to adhere to those rules. Asking a 16-year-old to ask a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 30-year-old to put their mask back on is asking a lot of them.
Yes.
It really is.
It is.
Especially if someone's going to say, how dare you 16-year-old, tell me I'm an adult and all this stuff. That potentially could happen.
Yeah.
But it's a very nice thing to hear that, they are taking those steps and teaching them how to very politely ask everybody to do it. Because think about it, like, if somebody said, hey, tell your kid to put their mask on, you wouldn't have responded very well.
Of course.
To that. It's like,
of course.
Even if you knew my child should be wearing that mask, if they weren't taking the steps to appropriately address it, nobody's going to respond the way that you did.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you're completely right. And I mean, that's the hardest part of all of this is you like you said, you're potentially putting a 16-year-old in charge of people's health and safety.
Sir, can you please put your mask on?
I think of the kid from The Simpsons. Like, that's exactly what it is. And so so I think that part's hard, but I think that I'm on a lot of different Facebook groups for Disney, and now I'm starting to get into Universal, and I do think that there are a lot of people who, thankfully, are just saying, if I have to wear a face mask, I won't go, and they're actually doing that. They're actually just not going, which is awesome. I was afraid that they would show up and go, no, I'm here. I paid my money. I'm not going to wear one. And they're not. Everybody's being super respectful, kind of regardless of what their beliefs are in this whole situation and what they think. And, I definitely appreciate that. And I've just been so happy to see how well it's going. And, the safety and concern of everybody is certainly top priority. The social distancing markers that are all over the park, which, first of all, I want to find somebody with inside Universal that can tell me how many of those they had to order. Because I would love to know, like, I mean, you look
probably
at something
thousands.
Like, oh my God.
Probably thousands.
I can't even imagine. And people really are looking at it. You know, every once in a while, somebody kind of walks up and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I should have been back here, you know, and it's 6 feet apart. And they did a good job. And I think, you know, Disney is, I think a lot of people want to say, well, you know, Universal opened June 5th. Why is Disney not opening till July 11th? Why can't they just open like a week later?
That's
Disney
comparing
is
apples
such a
to
different.
oranges.
Thank you.
Apples to oranges.
It is such a different animal that I don't think anybody can understand. I mean, the size of Disney, there's so much more to it. And I'm glad that you see that as well, because there's zero chance that you can compare those two. And, you know, Disney, I've always said, I mean, Disney has a target on their back like nothing else. I mean, God forbid that anything negative comes out of this Universal opening. And I certainly, you know, hope and pray that nobody ends up testing positive or something from here. But imagine the difference in the news stories and the social media and PR if it happened at Universal compared to Disney. I mean, Disney could literally be buried. You know, Disney raises their pricing for passes and tickets every year, like clockwork on February. And people just put them, I mean, they frickin',
on
you know,
blast.
on blast. 1 week later, Universal does the same thing and nobody even bats an eye. And so I think Disney, being under the microscope, has to truly take every single precaution, even if it ends up losing them money. And, you know, they have this NBA deal coming. They got the MLS deal coming. I think they could potentially think, well, maybe this will help us a little bit. But they can't open the same way. You know,
it's a completely different beast, like you said. It's apples to oranges, like I said. And anybody who thinks that, you know, Universal opening 1 week means that Disney can open the next week doesn't really quite understand the details that are behind these openings and kind of what each park needs to change in order for their guests, specifically at that park, to feel safe. You know, Universal Studios Florida is not the same as Magic Kingdom, just as Islands of Adventure isn't the same as Animal Kingdom. And even stretching past that, going to Fun Spot is not the same as going to Disney or Universal, or going to a putt-putt golf course is not going to be the same thing as going to any of these places. So each place is going to have to take their time in order to reopen and to make sure and ensure that their guests feel safe and are safe. And whatever Disney needs to do in order to make sure their guests are safe, I'm okay with whatever that time is, because I can guarantee that they're, crossing their T's and dotting their I's on everything. Because like you said, they are under the microscope. They have a target on them at all times. And the one slip up in any situation, regardless of whether it's a ride breakdown or a big F up, they're going to get told that they messed up. And Universal is, they are definitely a little lucky because they aren't, on the radar of people as often. But even regardless of whether or not being on the radar, it really seems as though, from your perspective, that they are taking those steps in order to ensure guest safety and guest health regardless. Which makes me really happy to hear, having the markers on the floor, having the hand sanitizer when you get on rides, wiping down surfaces, taking temperatures, entrances and exits are managed. And something that you mentioned a little while ago, and I didn't get a chance to kind of touch upon it, you talked about people getting in the elevator, they weren't wearing their masks. When it comes down to it, they're not going to have a ton of money to hire thousands of new team members to just enforce mask wearing. That's just not going to happen.
No, it's never going to happen.
That's just not.
You're right.
It's not feasible. It's not feasible whatsoever, and that's the reason why they're putting that kind of weight on the current team members. To ensure that rule to be followed. I do think that there is something to be said that there should be some type of extra enforcement of it, because I do think that they're those people who are getting on that elevator need to be told you need to put a mask on.
Agreed.
Even if it's like a team member who's further away, they need to be told that. To me, that's a little bit unacceptable. But I mean, not like Disney Springs where they have these cheerleaders saying, "Yay, wearing masks is fantastic and fun and super cool, guys." Like, no, having glorified cheerleaders isn't going to keep people's masks on. It's going to make them think it's a joke.
Right.
So thankfully Universal isn't kind of doing that, because that is, from my perspective, something that I don't like that Disney's doing, because it makes it something that's like a joke.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke. These are people's lives that they're playing with here. The people's health, and and I'm glad that Universal's taking it seriously.
Yeah, and well, I will say one thing about that, is that I'm really, really impressed that, we pre-ordered a bunch of Disney masks that they put in the Shop Disney store, but the issue is they're not shipping till mid-June. Disney is not readily, selling masks within Disney Springs. Now, I know there's some stores like Vera Bradley and all that are doing their own. Universal came up with these 3 designs. They got a pass holder one. They have a Love is Universal, an entire line, and then they have kind of a standard black and white one that they're doing. And so now they're selling out of a lot of the smaller sizes, but it's, they're providing them, and they're at $6 each. If you buy 3, there's $15 for all 3. There's no pass holder discount because they're literally giving any proceeds to charity. And they're really comfortable masks. We ended up finding them and getting them yesterday morning. And that is one thing that I wish Disney had gotten ahead of that, especially for the opening of Disney Springs. I mean, you talk, like, I'm just thinking, because I do marketing for a living. Like, I'm just thinking, man, just think what you guys could do if you had those ready to roll the day that Disney Springs opened. And you're promoting safety in a fun way. Because look, masks suck. I will tell you, masks suck.
They're not fun. They're definitely not fun.
But if you can make them fun in any way, then let's do it. And I think that part is important. And so I will say I've loved the way that Universal has done this. And then day one, even Friday, all they had were the one Universal design that had not sold out. And by, I want to say yesterday afternoon on Saturday, they had a whole bunch of just plain masks, like from an outside company they had ordered in different colors.
Like black and white or red or blue. Or
and they had brought those in. And so, I think they're doing really well as far as that point goes. The only thing I haven't seen, and I could be wrong, I thought that Universal originally stated that they require a mask. If you did not have one would be provided for you. We haven't seen the situation, but I haven't seen a setup that stated they were doing that. So I'm not.
I've never heard of that.
Sure. I swear I saw it. I could be wrong, or maybe I'm thinking that I saw maybe it was another one of the theme parks, like SeaWorld or Fun Spot. But I thought they had said that. But again, I could be wrong. I don't think you ever want to get into that situation. Like, you never want to say,
no. I mean, why would you be going to Universal without a mask in the first place? Going up to the gate and saying, "Oh, I need a mask." Come on, you're not dumb.
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
Dumb. Come on now. Yeah. And while you're in the park, I know you mentioned, the social distancing markers, the hand sanitizer, and the way that team members are kind of handling guests. I know that there are areas that you could go inside the Universal parks that are unmasking areas where you can go. They are designated areas that are separated from guests, and you could take off your mask so you could take a break.
Yeah.
I know that there are people out there that are concerned about carbon dioxide over amount that you're breathing in. So these are locations that you can kind of alleviate that issue and that concern by allowing guests to take off their masks.
Yeah.
How many people have you seen at a time in those kind of unmasked areas? And to your opinion, do you believe that kind of undoes a lot of what Universal is trying to do in order to keep guests safe?
I've not seen a lot of people in those areas. I've seen the areas set up. I haven't seen a ton in there. There's been a couple. What they're doing is, it's not like you're going in there and it's a free for all. It's not like I've never met you before and you and I are going in there taking our masks off and standing 1 foot apart. They're still keeping the social distancing in a required area. So, again, the theory is that if your mask is off, but you're still adhering to that social distancing, then you're safe. And that's what they're going by. I think there's still plenty of opportunities throughout the day that you can go ahead and get a little bit of relief from a mask, whether it's, sitting down for a meal, which of course you can remove your mask, and you can take that time to get away from it, or it is eating or drinking as you walk through the park. The biggest thing, and I'm not don't work for the CDC, and I'm not a doctor, but from what I understand is The big thing is it's more of a combination, so if technically I'm walking through the park and I pull my mask down to take a drink or to eat something, I'm still 6 feet away from most people, and so therefore it kind of is like why that's okay. Now, while you're in line, you are 6 feet from people, but you're not always 6 feet from people. You know the way queues look. They wind a lot.
Yeah.
So they're doing the best to keep you from other, rows of the queue that you're still 6 feet from people, but you're not technically always. So I think the masks are important. It's just, I can say everybody's biggest concern, and this is, again, me personally, and so I don't want to get like hate mail. For me personally, I have not had any heat issue with a mask at all. I think people were going, oh, great, you're going to make people wear masks in June, July, August in Florida. They're going to be dropping like flies. I personally have not seen any of that. And nobody in our group and party that has been here has experienced that. Are the masks comfortable? Not always. Are they a little bit hot? Sure. Do they hurt your ears when they're strapped around them all day? Of course they do. But I have not at one point felt that it became a heat issue that I thought I was going to pass out or faint or anything like that. So, I think the relief that they're offering is something that they feel like they need to do. And it's not like there's team members out front. They're waiting to let you in. They're counting. When you go up to any sort of restaurant or any indoor type queue, they're asking how many are in your party, and they're either typing it into, like a device like an iPhone or whatever it is, or they're jotting it down on paper so that they're keeping constant track of how many people are in there so that they can limit the capacity. So, I mean, I'll be honest, man, I can't, I'm trying to think of something else they could do that they haven't done, and I can't think of it. Seriously.
It really feels like they thought about this for a very long time and planned out exactly what they needed to do. And there's probably some adjustments that they realize they need to make, but guests don't realize they need to make.
Yep.
And I'm sure they're going to be making those in the next couple of weeks. But it's good to hear that those kind of unmasking areas are regulated and watched and aren't just like a smoking area where people just go and do whatever they want, which was a concern of mine because it would undo all the benefits that they're kind of creating for people to come to the park.
Exactly.
So that definitely does make me happy to hear. And when you're thinking about it, it's like, yeah, you're asking people to come with masks on, follow these rules, and if everyone's following them correctly, the little you can do is create an area for them to be able to at least take a break from that.
Yeah.
That's one of the smallest things, and also at the same time making sure that they still stay safe within that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like all these rules and regulations and distancing and all the changes that are being made, that can't last forever.
No.
And I think a lot of us who are theme park people like you and I are wondering, how long are those rules and regulations going to last? How long are they going to be regulating how many people are coming into the park? Because at a certain point, personally, either you or I or anybody else who are going to have to make a decision and say, like, okay, they're raising the capacity now. They're letting in 75% capacity now. Do we still feel safe at this park at this point?
Yeah.
Because that is the concern. So for you, the future of theme parks, where do you see kind of all of these new regulations kind of going from here?
I mean, I think there's still so much to learn about how, how Corona is going to act. We're learning new things all the time. Like, they came out.
It goes well with Lyme.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, but
tired joke.
they came out recently and said, well, it's not as transmittable, through contact surface as they originally thought. Okay. Now, I'm still sanitizing like crazy, and I'm still looking at my kids like, hey, can you maybe not touch that railing? But I think there's still so much to learn. I don't know. That's a great question. If tomorrow, and knowing Florida, Lord knows what they'll say, tomorrow they could say, you know what, theme parks are at 75% capacity. Let's just pull the Band-Aid. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable. But as long as the percentage of people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, which I have seen, and it's been a very, very high percentage, like 99%, maybe I would feel okay. Because if you go to a 75% capacity, but all those people are still doing what they're supposed to do, like wearing masks and sanitizing, and the distance becomes harder at that point, obviously. I may still feel comfortable. I don't know. It's, we're very much driven by what we do. And I know you are as well, and wanting to report on these things, because I want to be able to tell people, and I hope this episode helps, and some of the future episodes that we'll do. There's a lot of people right now in uncertainty, about what do they do with their vacations. And I want to be able to give them at least some sort of insight or advice on what they should do. I would never tell anyone what to do with their vacation, but I do want to be able to give them our experience, and then they can kind of make an informed decision of, do I want to spend the money for that experience? I think Disney has been painted in a very, very dim light with what's going to be available, at least through September, maybe through the end of the year, and how expensive it can be. I can tell you, I don't regret spending a penny this weekend, because we've done everything. Like, we've rode Hagrid's twice, and I know there's local APs that live 5 minutes away that potentially haven't rode Hagrid's. And so so I'm not telling everybody to rush here. I'm just saying, from our experience, it's a decision you have to make based on what you feel comfortable budget-wise, and how you feel comfortable with the way things are going. Do you want to spend the money to experience a park that has restrictions, but you can potentially do more? Now, Disney's going to fall into a little bit of a different light because it's so much larger. So it's just something that I hope that we can give information, and people can kind of make their own decision. And, any of your listeners that are thinking of going to, Universal Orlando or Disney, because we'll be there for the opening of Disney. We'll be there July 10th through 12th to see how it goes, and hopefully get into a park. I'd be happy to, continue to answer any individual questions. I don't want to tell anybody what to do with their money or their vacation, but I want to be able to give them enough insight that they can make an informed decision on their own.
Yeah, and I think informed decisions are the best thing that we can do right now, because like you said, it's going to be everybody's responsibility to gauge whether or not they're willing to go there, because whether or not anybody wants to disagree with this, it is going to be a risk.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Going to, a crowded supermarket or a crowded theme park is going to be a risk. So it is a calculated risk based on what you believe to be the right kind of setting for you.
Yep.
Is to feel comfortable. And, when it comes to the future of theme parks, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head a bit there. And there is a lot of uncertainty, because this is uncertain times, and we're really going to have to see how all these things kind of work together in order to kind of, see the future. Yeah. But you're right, Florida could just be tomorrow, just be like, we're fine. Everything's back to normal, no mask, no anything, everything's fine. Hug everybody.
It's been a ride.
Cough in their mouths.
It's been an interesting ride, I will say. I don't know. It's a hard stance, and we've tried to take a very, step away approach, to everything, because, I don't really get into that. Honestly, my opinion of, like we said earlier, my opinion or your opinion of whether we should wear face masks in the park doesn't matter. It is being required. Let's adhere to it. It's the same reason I wear a shirt into the park. I mean, there's other reasons, obviously, but no shirt. Yeah, it's going to be on the sign soon. No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service, and then I won't go there. If I can't, I don't smoke, but if I'm not going to go into a non-smoking section and smoke. So let's all be friendly. Let's all be kind. I know it's gotten very, very cliche, but I actually kind of like High School Musical. So we're all in this together. Like, I'm down with that. Let's all just be nice and friendly, and let's, get through all this crap together, because it's potentially not going away soon. And, I think the theme parks are doing everything they can to welcome people. And that's the other thing. It's been amazing. Every time I talk to a team member, they say, welcome back. And, like, part of me wants to be like, well, I've barely been here before, but thank you. So like Disney.
I'm still new
different.
here.
Yeah, like Disney will be different. When they say welcome back to Disney, like I will shed a tear. I'm not kidding. Like I will legit just do like some sort of weird man cry next time I get to see Cinderella's castle. But I'm okay.
You're gonna cry like I cried when I first went,
dude.
That's what you're gonna do.
I know that I will. We again, our daughter Lacey, we did the Ollivander's wand experience, and we had to sign up for it.
Yeah.
And in the past, they would bring in a group of like 30 people, and one kid would get chosen, and they were the one that went through the whole process and everything. And now they're letting in one family at a time, and so she was straight up like good to go and got to do everything, and it was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
To see. And again, with her being kind of like a little anxious in the way that she is, it was so incredible to watch. Like both Rhonda and I like teared up sitting there watching her. And I'm not even like, again, I don't consider myself a Universal guy. I've only just started watching the Harry Potter movies. But it was like, well, we kind of need to do this, so let's get involved. And we dive headfirst into anything we do. So
of course you do.
Yeah.
Of course you do. That's what us dorks do. We dive headfirst into something that potentially could be very, very fun. And, aside from all the seriousness of COVID-19 and the hand sanitizer and the distancing and all that stuff, the last thing I want to talk to you about before I let you go with your family is how are you enjoying Universal as a difference to Disney? Because I'm sure it's a breath of fresh air, just something different, new,
Yeah, it is. It's, everybody's been asking me that for 3 days. Because again, we bleed Disney. Like we really do. Every facet of our life, honestly, is part of Disney. I don't know if that's good or bad, but Universal isn't Disney, and it doesn't have to be. It never will be, and Universal does exactly what it needs to do to be Universal. And some of the gripes I had on my past, like 2 visits, because I was so intent on comparing it to Disney. And what this weekend has done is I've looked at myself and gone, dude, you don't have to compare it to Disney. It's not Disney. And Disney's not Universal.
What were the 2 gripes, though? What were the 2 gripes?
Some of them, like one of the big ones that used to be me was just kind of the break of theming. You can sit here on one side of like Islands of Adventure and see all of Islands of Adventure. The past 2 visits that we came, I didn't think the team members were that friendly or great, and they've been amazing this trip. And maybe it's because they're back and they're so excited about that. But we've been really impressed. And again, we had not really stayed at Universal resorts before, and now that we've spent 3 nights here, I love it. And I think that there is a place in everybody's heart or mind to enjoy both of these parks for what they are. I used to think you almost had to be a Universal person or a Disney person. You don't. You can love both, you can embrace both, and I have pretty much decided that's what I'm going to do. So
yeah, there's definitely a very distinct difference between Universal and Disney, and there are very distinct experiences.
Yeah.
And there's benefits to both of those. And I think, like you said, there is room to enjoy both for what they are. And I think it's a little silly to say, I don't like Universal because it's not Disney.
Right.
It's like, okay, then if you don't like Universal because it's not like Disney, that's fine. Just don't necessarily think that's the way you should be thinking about it. I think you should be appreciating these places for their differences and what they're trying to give you, because they are just different experiences.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, I'm not going to go to Universal and have somebody give me a magic moment and give me a pin for free because I'm on my honeymoon. Just likewise, I'm not going to go to Disney and have a maniacal clown threaten to murder me.
Exactly.
Those things are just not going to happen, but those are both experiences I want. Yeah. So, and I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying your experiences there and you're opening your horizons to a whole new world, to use 2 Disney references to a Universal experience.
That was impressive, man. You've done your homework. No, I mean, you're spot on. I think that sums it up absolutely perfectly. Let's open up to enjoy all of these. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go be a SeaWorld pass holder anytime soon, but maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you're gonna be dressing up like an orca the next time I chat with you.
Probably.
You're gonna be talking about all the SeaWorld facts. You're gonna be SeaWorld oriented next time we chat.
Maybe. Who knows, man? We'll see how this crazy world keeps going.
Right. But thank you so much for joining me. I know that you're in the middle of kind of your guys' time enjoying the Universal Park, so thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Really appreciate kind of hearing your firsthand experience of kind of how Universal is approaching these uncertain times like we kind of talked about. So
yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know Diz Dudes or Main Street Magic, which why don't they? Please let them know where they could find you guys and enjoy you.
Yeah, so if you actually go out to capturethemagicnetwork.com, you can find every show that we do. We certainly have some blogs and some reviews and things like that out there. And then we deliver pretty much over the course of the network, we deliver 5 shows a week based on Disney. And we're going to start to sprinkle in a little bit of Universal. So anybody that is, questioning their Disney trip, I totally understand. If you want to come over here to the dark side, we're going to give you some information on that as well.
And your guys' reviews and perspectives are always welcome because, somebody who's on the West Coast, I don't know the East Coast as well.
Yeah.
So hearing your guys' perspectives and opinions and reviews on these different experiences, whether it be restaurants, hotels, rides, downtown Disney experiences, things like that, it's always welcomed and helpful so that I can plan my trips accordingly based on your guys' opinions.
Well, thank you, man. And at some point, we are planning to get out to the West Coast. So that's where I will be taking all of your awesome information to account as well as we plan some Universal Hollywood and Disneyland and things like that. So appreciate all that you do, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And let me know when that trip's happening and I'll give you the lowdown on everything. And hopefully, if the stars align, I'm actually coming out there for Halloween Horror Nights 30 this year. I'm sincerely hoping, and that is a completely different conversation to have and whether or not Halloween Horror Nights could even happen.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm hoping it does.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it does. And if it does, maybe I could see it from 6 feet away.
Yeah, well, let me know for sure. We ended up with the premiere passes, so we get Halloween Horror Night ticket included. So if it comes that time, I'm a giant wuss. So I do not want to go, but I have a feeling I'm going to be coerced into going because our 12-year-old daughter is becoming a giant horror fan and she wants to go really badly. So if we can go at the same time you do, then you might just be my bodyguard, if that's cool.
Dude, I will go any day and watch you crap your pants.
Awesome.
That'll be really fun. I am
totally
all in on that.
I will scream. I will
in.
scream like a girl nonstop.
Well, we'll make plans, my friend.
I love it.
Okay, thank you again, my friend, and have fun for the rest of your time at Universal, okay?
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
If you noticed, I was absent during that wonderful interview that Gabe had with Jeremy because our daughter took a 30-minute nap today.
You were there. You were just really quiet. And nobody could hear you. You were whispering the entire time.
Oh, like that girl from Pitch Perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
That one, okay, well, everyone else does. For everyone else in the world who's seen Pitch Perfect, it's that one girl that whispered everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, yes, Nikki was absent for that interview. Like she said, our daughter took a 30-minute nap. So that really put a damper on both of us being on that interview. But that is the parent life. Mm-hmm. But, from Jeremy's description, it really sounds like Universal is handling everything really well.
That's good to know.
It really feels like they planned this out thoroughly and thought about it before just like throwing open the gates and welcoming people back. And I think that is kind of what we're looking for when all these places start reopening, is some semblance of a plan that is put into place, not just opening the doors and hoping for the best, because I think that's what's going to cause a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, we'll not really know what the full extent of this kind of a thing is going to do to to us as people with COVID for another 2 weeks, another week and a half, if the numbers do show up that way. But, based on the precautions that Universal is taking with its guests and its team members, I highly doubt, based on like the information the CDC has given on how it spreads, that it's going to create a huge increase in numbers.
I don't think it'll increase the numbers that much. And honestly, I think there's lots of other things going on right now that are going to increase the number of cases anyway. So it's hard to say, unless you track people very thoroughly, it's hard to say how many came from Universal opening or from the protests or whatever.
Yeah. Right now, for the thing is that like right now we're very aware of what's going on because we're living it.
Yeah.
But for anybody who potentially like in the future listens to this episode, right now there's a crap ton of protests happening.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matters protests. A lot of violence is happening out in the streets. Curfews here in LA, riots and things like that because of the death of George Floyd. So for history purposes, for anybody who is potentially listening to this in the future,
like
next year, years after, or even years after that, that is what's happening right now.
Okay, well,
in 2020,
they'll know because we're talking about the reopening of Universal Orlando.
No, in 3 years, I doubt somebody who's going to be listening to this about the reopening of Universal Orlando Resort is going to be thinking about the riots that are happening.
Right now, I am talking to the person who is just now listening to this episode 3 years from now. I am talking to you. What took you so long? That's all I have to say, though.
What took you so long to listen to us?
I'm waiting for your email. themeparkduo@gmail.com.
To the person who's listening to
3 years from now. Yes.
So that's kind of what's happening in the world at the moment. Bringing it back to Universal Orlando Resort, I don't think there's going to be huge uptick in numbers based on the precautions they're taking with the COVID-19 and making sure their guests and team members are safe.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, really happy to hear that Jeremy's having a great time out there in Florida right now at Universal. Obviously, Universal Studios is the only one open in regards to like the two big ones, Universal and Disney.
Yeah.
Disney isn't quite open yet, but I guarantee you Disney's watching Universal
notes.
very closely, taking notes, but also trying to figure out how they're going to do theirs because, as we said in the interview, they're two different animals. It's like apples and oranges. It isn't the same thing. So they're going to be looking very closely at what Universal is doing, but also applying it to them in a way that works best for Disney.
I mean, honestly, reopening Disney is like reopening a city.
It really is. I mean, for all who don't know this, but the property of Walt Disney World is essentially the size of San Francisco. It's massive. So there's a lot of moving pieces to that they're going to have to address. It's difficult. I mean, we kind of talked about it on the COVID-19 episode, but I mean, it's like buses and Skyliners and trams and just all these things that you just don't think about when it comes to a pandemic.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting how that plays out. But ultimately, I'm happy to see that Universal Orlando Resort is handling this extremely well. So definitely want to say thank you again to Jeremy for coming out on the show and kind of sharing his experiences with us. So it was really great to hear that, and make sure to also check Jeremy's shows out. The Capture the Magic Network. Capture the Magic Network is where you can find all of his stuff, Main Street Magic, as well as the Diz Dudes podcast. So it was actually a really good episode this week. I'm really happy with it.
Good.
It was a very big deal to have Universal reopen. So,
definitely.
Yeah, very big deal. So we'll see how everything else goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you head on over to iTunes like we talked about at the very beginning of the episode and leave us a 5-star written review, or just leave us a review at all. It's always helpful for us. It's a free way of supporting the show, and it raises us up higher in the standings. It makes it easier for everyone to enjoy us like you are right now. And if you wanted to follow us on social media, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Theme Park Duo. If you wanted to reach out to us like Nikki had said earlier, if you're listening to this 3 years in the future,
Or now.
or now.
Or now.
Or now. If you want to email us, you can just email us at
themeparkduo@gmail.com.
Of course. And as always, everybody, always remember,
There's always a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
See ya.
Thanks for riding with the Theme Park Duo. Make sure to gather all your belongings before the end of the podcast. Bye-bye.